5 stupid things in our history. The Great Molasses Flood of Boston in 1919. Picture this, a massive storage tank in Boston, Massachusetts, holding over 2.3 million gallons of molasses. The tank had been leaking for a while, but company officials ignored concerns and shrugged, saying, "Oh, that's normal for molasses." They completely ignored structural warnings. Then, on a warm January day, the poorly constructed tank burst. A 25-foot wave of sticky brown syrup exploded through the streets at 35 miles per hour. It was like a slow-motion tsunami, but made of molasses. The result? 21 people dead, 150 injured, and buildings swept off their foundations. The area remained brown and sticky for decades, all because someone thought a leaking tank was just normal. All of this was caused by molasses. Imagine what would have happened if they included the rest of the mole. At number 4, we have a military blunder so absurd it sounds like a bad comedy sketch. The Battle of Karansebes in 1788. One night during the Austro-Turkish War of 1788 to 1791, the Austrian army was on the march, trying to cross a river in the dark. The Austrians sent out a scouting party of cavalry to ensure they were unhindered during their river crossing. The scouts then found Romani traders, and more importantly, the schnapps that the traders were carrying. When the scouts returned from patrol and the infantrymen heard about the newly acquired cargo, they demanded that the schnapps was also shared with them. Upon the scouts' selfish refusal, a fight broke out with an accompanying shot that fired from one of the men present. To the detriment of the entire regiment, someone shouted, "Turks!" causing mass confusion within the dimly lit camp. What happened next was a military marvel. In the pitch black night, different Austrian units began firing on each other, genuinely believing they were fighting the Ottoman enemy. The entire army panicked and retreated, suffering thousands of casualties, all from friendly fire. This was a great victory for the Turkish and Snappish alliance. Our number 3 spot goes to a modern masterpiece of wasteful spending, Alaska's infamous Bridge to Nowhere scandal of the early 2000s. The idea was simple: build a bridge connecting Ketchikan, a town of about 8,000, to Gravina Island, which had an airport and a population of roughly 50. The proposed cost for this monumental connection? Nearly $400 million of federal taxpayer money. The bridge quickly became a national symbol of government pork barrel spending, massive funds for a project with incredibly limited practical benefit. It was a bridge to an island with virtually no one on it, costing more than many major infrastructure projects. Thankfully, the full funding for that specific bridge was eventually pulled due to public outcry. No one burns bridges better than governments. Coming in at number 2 is a truly astounding example of collective irrationality, the Dutch tulip mania of the 1630s. At its peak, single tulip bulbs, just a flower, were trading for more than the cost of houses, entire estates, or even a skilled craftsman's annual salary. People mortgaged their homes and invested their entire life savings, not because tulips were useful, but because they believed the price would just keep going up. It was a speculative bubble of epic proportions. Of course, it inevitably burst. The market collapsed, leaving thousands of investors utterly ruined. It taught us a harsh lesson about distinguishing true value from irrational exuberance. Sometimes, a flower is just a flower. I am personally glad to not have been around at that time, as my girlfriend loves flowers. Taking our top spot today is none other than the Maginot Line, built by France in the 1930s. After the horrors of World War I, France decided they'd never be invaded again. Their solution? Build the world's most elaborate, expensive, and supposedly impenetrable defensive fortification along their border with Germany. We're talking miles of concrete bunkers, underground railways, and massive artillery. It was an engineering marvel, a fortress so formidable it seemed like nothing could get through it. There was just one tiny multi-billion-dollar problem: they didn't extend it all the way. The line famously ended at the dense Ardennes forest, which French strategists believed was impassable for tanks. The Germans, however, in 1940, had other ideas. They simply drove their entire armored invasion force through the impassable forest, completely bypassing the mighty Maginot Line. French soldiers inside their impenetrable bunkers were effectively sidelined, watching the invasion happen around them. Seawall, Drive around Wall, viel Erfolge.